Yo, what's poppin', everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, another episode of Caffeine and Green with your man, Connor Cardenas. Per usual, I just want to make sure that you guys are heading on over to the shop. That's right, I'm talking about 3072 El Cajon Boulevard here in the heart of North Park, San Diego, California, baby. What's poppin'? Let's go. We have the first brick and mortar Caffeine and Green coffee shop, so if you guys haven't come to the shop yet, you're slipping. You need to come through. That's right. We have the original OG It's a blend on sale for you guys. It's dark, it's chocolatey, and it's bold. It's so tasty. We also have the El Cajon Boulevard, which is a single origin Ethiopian matcha. A little bit of strawberry, blueberry, but a little bit of honey. It's very, very nice. And then also we have, for a limited time left, the Notorious. It's black currant, caramel, and some strawberry. It's really, really good. It's one of my personal favorites. So guys, pull up. Come, I'll make them, make you a latte. You can get a bag of coffee. Come and kick it. Just, come and have a good time. 3072 El Cajon Boulevard. Caffeine and Green, baby. Let's go. All right. My guest today is quite the diverse human being. Man, my man knows how to communicate. He knows how to talk. And, of course, I'm talking about my man, Nate Abaurrea. Nate is so dope. He's super funny. He's very animated. He commands your attention when he speaks, and rightfully so. My man has done the soccer games for the Tijuana Xolos in Tijuana, which is their soccer team. He's also done the San Diego Loyals. So he's in sports broadcasting, but he's also a poet. He's also an author. I mean, dude, there's a lot of things that Nate's done, and it was a great conversation. I was super excited, and just wait till the end. I'm going to post a video that's going to be on Instagram about like how we finished out the podcast, but you have to listen to the podcast to get to it. So guys, enjoy this podcast as much as I did. And without further ado, my man, Nate Abaurrea. This your time to shine, homie. Let's go. Give me caffeine and green. It's your boy Connor. What's good? Good. Caffeine and green. And we're live. Nate Abaurrea. Welcome to Caffeine and Green, sir.
What's good?
Yo.
Good to be here.
Yes, dude. Hell yeah. I'm super pumped. I mean, we've been talking for a little bit here before the podcast, so we're definitely probably have to go over some things again. But I usually just get right into it. So I want to get right into why you were on the show today. And I mean, like, we met at Winyl Club a couple weeks ago. So I met you because of that. And then you knew some friends and like, Allison, and it's like, okay, how do we meet? Like, this is so sick. But then I come to find out you're like, oh yeah, I do like sports broadcasting. I do this, I do that. I'm like, what? And then you have this love for Nipsey, and you like have this like tie to all these things. And then you're like, you got the Bay Area, like you were down for the Golden Gate, the Warriors. It's like, dude, yeah, like I want you to come on the show. I want to.
It's good to be here in a place where I feel like I belong,
dude. Yeah, like cheers.
I struggle for belonging a lot of places in my life, and good to be here where I belong.
Salute.
Caffeine and Green, man. No, this is a lot of fun. It feels like a folk song, man. That's why I laugh about it. It's like you make these connections with people, and it's like, did we know each other when we were little kids? Or we like long lost cousins or something? And it's mad love and mad respect for. The fact that a place like Winyl Club, shout out to the Imperial Ave collab where that event was at.
Por Vida. Shout out Por Vida.
Shout out Por Vida. The 2022 Winyl Club finale of sorts, that was. And shout out to everybody with Winyl Club, because I was meeting people, these connections like what we're talking about. There were a bunch of these throughout the summer out there. Like things like this, fusions like this, where it felt like they were happening for me like dominoes, where it's like you wait, you're like, man, I'm struggling for, the right connections, the right, just little lulls as an artist, little O's as an independent, all these types of things where you look to a god like Nipsey Hussle for inspiration and real inspiration. And so to then have inspiration kind of come in the form of actual networking, like real, true to the core human connection with hella people throughout 2022. Mad respect off top to Winyl Club, to Por Vida, to the Imperial Ave collab, because without them, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Dude, real talk. I mean, Allison has told me about you before. She's like, you guys should, like, we were at Winyl Club one time, and she actually was like, that's my friend Nate over there. I'm going to go say what up. And then she's like, you know what? Like, I really think you guys should meet because she's like, he's literally wearing he's wearing a Golden State Warriors jersey like right now. And
Old school. Antoine Jameson, 33, baby.
What was it? It was like
Dark blue.
Oh, you're wearing the dark blue one.
Dark blue.
With the orange?
With the orange, with the thunderbolt across the front. Oh, yeah, baby.
Damn.
Real.
Wait, are they like the new ones though, where that says Oakland on the front, or is
No,
it
that
like
is
Warriors?
No, that is a kids XL, baby. That's for chunky 9-year-old me.
Dude.
Rocking that thing off the discount rack,
Dude, were you a chubby kid too?
Not too bad, but like the kids XL. You know what's funny with the kids XL is it's my preferred size of NBA jersey now. And I look back at the NBA jerseys I wore once I actually got in like decent shape when I was 15, 16, playing sports in high school. And I look back at the jerseys that I would wear and they fit me like a dress. Now they fit like a robe. Now I'm like, wow, we're really doing this. Okay.
Dude, yeah.
And I wear now, what's funny is so I started doing this and before thrift shops caught on to this, it was like a real good little thing that I had to myself where, I'd collect like all the old Champ Sports ones, all the ones that would be in Kmart and various places over the years, and even some of the authentic ones. Yeah, the Kids XL is where it's at. It's just like, it fits snug, it fits perfect. I'm with it.
Okay. Fuck yeah.
So that's the original Antoine Jameson, 23-year-old Golden State Warriors jersey. Back when they were losing 60 games a year, back when it took a real fan.
Antoine,
follow
dude,
the
is
Warriors,
that still
baby.
Dunleavy? Dunleavy was still
I was
on the team?
into the Mike Dunleavy, Mr. Dunleavy era.
Dude.
Oh, man. Some dark days.
Did you ever go to the Oracle and see the games?
I grew up going to Oracle Arena. Knew it originally as the Oakland Coliseum Arena with my father, who was a very, to say working class might be a fucking understatement for kind of just a lot of the things with my father. And not only was he working class, he was also just a cheap man. And we would go, in hindsight now, with, Warriors playing at Chase and just the whole kind of grander concept of a family being able to take their family to the game, a mother, father being able to take the kids to the game, prices of stuff, and a lot of gates that have gone up over the years. I think back to the 90s when my dad, who, like I said, was a very cheap man, would take me. We would go for these 65 loss a season, sorry ass Golden State Warriors teams. We would go to like a game a week. Coming up from Santa Cruz County, coming up from Watsonville. Gas is like $1 a gallon. Tickets were $10 each for the upper tank. They'd go on sale 2 hours before tip-off.
Yep.
And it'd be right there, and they get them. And this carried on. People don't realize, like, We Believe era and the famous Baron Davis, Steven Jackson, Jay Rich teams. Like, when Nelly came back the second time, you could still get into games for like $10.
Dude, no,
and it was
I
a
know.
real special place. So shout out to the original Warrior fans, folks who've been with it since the beginning. I seen something today. The Warriors are the second most popular sports team in America now, according to some new poll. Up in like the Laker, Yankee, Patriot territory. And you're like, damn.
That's what's popping. Let's go Bay Area, baby.
Come a long way. Come a long way from 65 losses and $10 seats.
Bay Area always on top. Dude, I actually, my first game to Golden State Warriors, I was 17, and it was Baron Davis's first game. It was against the Detroit Pistons.
Against the reigning champion, Detroit Pistons.
Dude, fucking, oh my God, not Clyde Drexler.
I'm like, how old are you? Come on, I thought you were my age.
It was
Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace, thank you. He was on the cover of 2K that year too.
Yeah.
So, dude, we were 17.
with Tracy Morgan on the ads too. It's all coming back to me. It was the early 2000s nostalgia episode.
Dude, this had to have been like 2003, 2004.
It was 05. Yeah, Baron came in 05.
Are you sure?
Yeah, spring. It was the 04-05 season.
Dude, okay, so maybe that's when it was. So it had to been 04, yeah. Okay, so we go, dude, 6 rows from the floor, bro. $17 a seat. I'm not even shitting you. I went with my girlfriend at the time. She got them on Craigslist the day of.
Craigslist.
She's
Back
like,
when
hey,
Craigslist was popping.
bro,
A trustworthy place.
We hopped on the BART. We fucking got to the Oakland Coliseum, and we fucking went to the game. And like, I bought 2 jerseys, bro. $50 per jersey, and they were like the sick ones too. Yeah. They were the fucking like. Sorry about the flag.
Hey, the natties, they're good.
It's from the plants.
I'm clearing them out.
But bro, the jerseys like got the original like gold with the blue. And then it had like the one that I have tatted on my arm, like the original OG logo of San Francisco.
You could go and my favorite spot, you could get authentic shit. You could be working class and get authentic stuff from the team store back in these days. And it sounds like we're talking about this era from like 50 years ago or something.
Nah,
this is like a
early
few
2000s.
years back. This is where we were at. And my favorite part though of all was all the hustlers out on the BART Bridge.
Dude, yo.
The BART Bridge, the collection. And this gets back to, again, hey, shout out Pops. Because as a cheap man, Pops was not a souvenir buyer. Mm-hmm. But you know where he would always show love? You know where he would buy son a little shirt or two? BART Bridge. $5 a piece. You get
like the bootleg ones?
All the bootleg ones.
Dude, the bootleg. Yeah,
I got the
collection.
I got the collections of the $5 BART Bridge, a lot of Candlestick Walking Bridge shirts. I got the collection of all the oh man, A's games, Raider games, Niner, Giants, Warriors, like love for the Bay. I'm in San Diego now, and I have to be careful with this stuff because I get so nostalgic and so enthusiastic, and some people are here for it. And some people, like yourself, you know, with Bay connections, even folks here in San Diego, like true and tried locals, are like, yo, I feel your passion. I'm down for this. I'll crack a beer. I'll listen to you tell these stories. There's a limit to it, though, I've learned.
Got you.
Because it can get a little boasty. It can get a little, you tell these stories of how hard it was, and then all these folks know about is, so your baseball team won 3 World Series in 5 seasons. Your supposedly shitty, pathetic basketball team is the 3rd most popular sports franchise in America. It won four championships in 8 years.
Let's go.
What exactly are you complaining about with your little gritty hometown story here?
Hey,
like wrap it up.
To be fair,
wrap it up.
To be fair, the A's still suck. Anyways, that's where I'll leave that. So it's fine. But the reason I wanted to have you on too, so Winyl Club was like a big thing. We met there, and Winyl Club for me has become. I tell Derek this every time I see him. I'm like, bro, I don't know. Like, there's something about Winyl Club that like having them here at the grand opening, and then also like going to the park every single Wednesday to like actually just kind of unwind and chill with the homies and have like amazing music and have all these amazing people like yourself putting it on, and then like you go to like the Imperial Ave thing, and it's like it's just good vibes. It's coffee, it's wine, it's food, it's just people chilling and kind of unwinding. And that's why I was like, damn, so Winyl Club, and then you do the sports and stuff, and it's like, how did you get, like, did one lead to the other? Like, did you start doing like sports stuff and then get in more into music, or you like always been doing music and then got into like sports broadcasting?
That's a really, really cool question. I'm glad you asked that, because that is like the crux of it's just the core of everything I'm trying to break down in terms of walls that have existed for so long, not only in my career, but going back to fucking childhood, going back to all of it, of the sports world, quote unquote, and the arts world, the artistic world over here. I talk about this with people. I'm always feeling like I'm going back. It just carries on from like high school forward, where I'm too much of a jock for the drama room, but I'm too queer and eccentric for the baseball diamond. It's like, but I'm a baseball player who's into theater and poetry and music and artistic expression and freedom of thought and writing and journalism and real passion and love. And it's like, calm down, hot boy. You know what I mean? Like, and this whole idea of those things being, uncool in certain circles and very questionable in a lot of circles that I've been in as an athlete, and then even carrying on of being in these worlds as a sportscaster and a sports writer in all the professional capacities, and then going even back to my own, athletic upbringing. And then you have the flip side of it, which is, and it has to be understood, where a lot of people, when you're involved in the sports world, the macho sports world, that's their perception of who you are. And they don't necessarily show you the same upfront kindness and respect that they would show to a lot of other artists, because you're the baseball and boxing guy, or you're the, and their perception of what, sports is, you have to actually have a little bit of understanding for. It's the frat bro stereotype douchebag smashing, which is a stereotype for a reason, smashing a beer can in front of his forehead and screaming, "Oh, let's go team," as he rips off his shirt when it's, 20 below zero. Like, that's their perception. It's all in extremes, And so back to what you asked, like, I'm finally, I don't think I'm there yet. I think I might have to work on this for the rest of my life, but I'm feeling really good with where I'm at in terms of telling people, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm an artist, I'm a sportscaster, I'm a DJ, I'm a poet. All these things that have been so separated for so long, they've all been equal passions to me. Like they all mean a lot. I don't want to like equate, put first place, second place, third place. Like they're all in the club. They all matter, So that's why I really value that question, because it's like it sums up kind of like the essence of what I'm trying to do right now. Why it's cool to have people like yourself and scenes like Winyl Club and talking to a lot of people who are involved in the historic jazz communities of San Diego, people involved in the up to the minute hip hop communities of San Diego, where sports is culture and art is culture and beer and coffee and you name it is culture. And if we stir all that stuff together, I think it's for the better. I think it's for the best.
Well, all the things that you mentioned, they all involve writing and they all involve speaking, and it's all a form of communication. And I believe that it's pretty easy, I think, for you to kind of bridge it. Like, but what came first though? Was it, so you've been an artist your whole life. How did you find your way then into broadcasting? Like specifically,
lifelong passion, 100%. I think it really comes through radio. I think radio is where I sum it up of being, oh man, there was like a great silly little fucking TikTok meme thing the other day, but that spotlighted people born between right about like 1987, 88 and like 1992 as this just incredible generation that grew up without the modern internet, but also kind of saw some rises of it, and we could go on for hours about all this shit, but tying it back to radio and the idea of technologies that are somewhat archaic now to a lot of people were like huge. I'm still a relatively young man. You're still a young man. Tower Power, Bay Area, shout out. I feel that I'm still a young man, but then I talk about these things and I sound like a fucking grandpa. Where I talk about the importance of radio. Back when I was a kid, Cano, we listened to the radio. You had FM and you had AM, and that was what there was. But like people like hear this and they're like, yo, all love, you sound like an old ass man. You know what I mean? And so for me, it cracks me up where these things of radio and with sports too, of bunny ear antennas, where I didn't have cable in Watsonville, California at my mom's house. And I got every Mexican soccer game with a pair of, metal sticks that plugged into the back of a TV set, where literally you had electricity. If you had electricity, you had Liga MX's season ticket. You had like what would amount to like a deluxe cable package nowadays. And you get that shit for free on over-the-air television. And I would listen to games on the radio. I'd listen to A's and Giants games on the radio. I knew all the announcers' names. I knew all the local hip-hop DJs' names. The way that then that transitions into music. The way that transitions into, I made commercials for a living. I did voiceover work for 5-6 years and listen catchy little ads and jingles and Caffeine and Green. That's a catchy ass title. Like I hear that, I got like ads and early radio marketing shit swirling in my head. So I think all of it, 100%, I say this in all confidence, comes back. And I joked about bunny ear antennas and Mexican soccer and whatnot, but all love for communications, the microphone, the little bit of gift of gab, whatever you want to call it, radio.
Did you go to school to like learn how to like hold that demeanor?
Broadcast communications or degree in communications with an emphasis in broadcasting and journalism, journalism major. And then almost a little English minor mixed in there and a bunch of writing stuff always. But the art and the passionate craft of real good radio, whether it's calling a game, whether it's, God, the amount of Spanish that I learned as a kid in a majority Mexicano town in Watsonville, California, the amount of Spanish that I learned through the radio, the amount of Mexican music that I became well-versed in through the radio. It was back when, the Clear Channel iHeart, where I would still love to get some money someday, where the mafia wasn't in full control, and there was a lot more substance on the radio in the 90s. And in these, I'm like a little ass kid, and these memories are so visceral and so real. And I'm telling you these stories, and I'm just like, I'm hearing the songs that we're playing and the games that were on the radio. So no, man, it's really all love to that craft, and that came before college, before going up to Humboldt State University.
That's right. You told me this.
Yeah, up in that old place. Santa Cruz was a big spot for me, where I got to go up and be involved through the Watsonville Brown Berets, through the autonomous chapter of the Watsonville Brown Berets. We were doing a bunch of
What is that?
Incredible social activist organization with roots right here in San Diego, and you'll see many murals at Chicano Park, and just the Brown Berets very parallel to the Black Panther Party of the 60s, similar timeline. And there was involvement with the Berets with school walkouts that were going on in protest of HR 4437 back in 2006. And long story short, I got connected with the Berets as a high school kid who was, wanting to kind of cover stuff as an inspiring writer, but then also just got involved in various movements and ways that I could be a part of things. And people heard, little 15-year-old güerito talking about radio and talking about communications and whatnot. Oh, we have a radio show that we do every Saturday night up on Pirate Radio Santa Cruz, up in an undisclosed location.
Shit.
Back up in Santa Cruz. So I would take the 71 bus, take the metro, little BMX bike on the front of the bus from Watsonville, about an hour on the bus all the way up to Santa Cruz, and meet up with the dude from the Berets. And then we'd walk down into this like hippie commune house that was down the street from where UCSC's at. And then we'd dip into this little basement. And it's like, oh shit, I'd been in corporate radio studios. I'd been in local cool radio studios and community college stuff around, but like there was nothing as cool as this. It was this like total just gangster ass, like the FCC and the FBI had raided the station a year earlier, and there's pictures up of like people being led out by gunpoint. This is all real shit. We'll link it up on your Caffeine and Green. Like this is heavy, beautiful radio stuff where it was a legitimate pirate radio signal. It was an illegal radio station that had reach all throughout Santa Cruz County. And that was my first spot where I would get to go on and be like, this is the Aslan Underground, this is the Coup, this is Talib Kweli and Mos Def reunion, this is like 05, 06.
You were just spinning records?
Getting to play stuff off of a computer, big old, one of those CD drives, one of those gargantuan like 20 disc CD drives in there. What? Yeah, so like radio's been a cornerstone of my life, and I love shouting out, Pirate Radio Santa Cruz. That's what's up.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
In a good way. That's super dope.
Oh, it's insane, dude. Like you'd see the pictures, like they full on the FBI raided the station, and it was a bunch of upstairs was like the commune house. So it was a bunch of like European foreign exchange students and hella like the sort of like bohemian hippie types who had no idea, who weren't involved with anything with the radio station, and they were all getting like fucking let out by the feds and got like thrown in the paddy wagons. And this is back in 2005 in Santa Cruz, and then I was there as a kid, as a teenager, doing co-hosting radio shows in like a year later in 06. So like radio, wow, baby.
Dude. Wow.
Radio.
Okay, so you do all this, like you're in the Bay Area. I mean, like you're in Watsonville. What led you down here?
Radio. No, in all honesty,
like, was it a job? Like, did you get an opportunity to do like a team, or did you just like?
Kind of. It was more of the dream of Xolos. It was more the dream of Club Tijuana and what
really
and what Xolos and what Club Tijuana represented as a gateway to not only Mexico but all of Latin America. It's like people forget Xolos were playing in the Copa Libertadores quarterfinals in 2013, and we're really on the rise as a brand and as a club. And so 2016, of course, the Mexican championship in December of 2012. And so I come down in the spring of 2016. I was living out in 2015. I wrapped up a radio job in Redding, California, up in bumfuck NorCal, where I was stationed at for a couple years, honing the craft, calling games, hosting shows, doing call-in shows, classic talk radio, sports style, getting my chops with that type of stuff. Bunch of other different kind of endeavors, but that all circle back to radio. And so then I had a year of reconnaissance. I bought a beautiful used Volvo wagon and put 10,000 miles on it in, I think it was 8.5 months without ever leaving the state of California. And so I was sleeping, and the math, people hear that math, and it's like, that's how big this beautiful country of mine is. I'm a Californian at heart. From Cabo San Lucas up to Ensenada, up to Humboldt, and right back down. Like, that's my nation. I'm a Californian in every way that I can be. And the whole point of the reconnaissance was to figure out where my next permanent residence would be. Thanks to everybody out there who lended me a couch, who lended me a bed, who lended me a roof over my head, who gave me a connection to so-and-so. Oakland and San Francisco were very high on the list. I had really cool connections in LA. Had some out-of-state ones, some stuff, opportunities potentially up in Portland. And then San Diego and Tijuana became this kind of wild card type of option. And I came down, I visited, and things were really fucking on the level, and kind of just always kept San Diego in the mirror, in the side vision. And 2016 comes around, and it was the intrigue of Xolos, which comes back to those bunny ear antennas in Watsonville and the love of Mexican soccer, specific love of all soccer, love of the beautiful game of football across the world, but a real special affinity for the soccer that I grew up immersed in, which was the Mexican national team and Liga MX, and every club and every piece of the tapestry that is Mexican football. And so here's this Tijuana, this thing that for so much of my childhood, Mexican soccer was like a Mexico City and Guadalajara thing. And you had Tigres and Monterrey, in the north central part, but that's like Texas, Mexico. And then you got Torreon with Santos. There was never a team really anywhere close to where I'm from. Everyone had their roots with whatever part of Mexico their family was from, and I'd learn all about it. So when I found out that, was kind of catching the buzz of what was going on with Tijuana, where it's like, yo, this is like Chivas in America and Pumas, and you name all the grandes of Mexican soccer. Like, yo, they all got to come play away games fucking 22 miles from San Diego, from where we're literally sitting right now at Caffeine and Green.
Yeah.
Like, professional Mexican soccer games are right there. And just that thought just blew my mind. And that was enough to put San Diego in first place, and basically come down here, get connected with everybody I could in the local soccer community, start just being like, hey, this is who I am. I'm after up front. I'm respectful. I'm who I am, but I'm after microphones and paychecks. Anybody got any microphones and paychecks? And just knocking at doors and writing and doing personal stuff at the same time. But Tijuana, man, it's ends up where the dream of calling Mexican soccer in English, which is something I would do as a kid in Watsonville. I'd mute the TV and like do my own play-by-play into a little shoddy, little bruised up like Sony handheld tape recorder thing. And it was always a dream of doing it in English, because all the games, I learned Spanish through these broadcasters, and I would hear these incredible turns of phrase and just these styles of the Andres Cantors and Pablo Ramirez's and, so many other brilliant icons of the microphone, El Perro Bermudez, and all these great names, and they had this great personality, and they would call soccer games like they were DJing a show. Like, it just had such a fucking pizzazz to it. It was so fun. And here I am, though, in a world that, with what I work in, is a, predominantly English-speaking media landscape. And so I always had this dream of tying it all together, of knocking down these walls of like, yo, I want to someday, this isn't a little-ass kid, of like, I want to call Mexican soccer in English with kind of a Mexican flair a la the idols I previously mentioned. And in 2018, it happened, and it all ties back to radio, where we finally I got the station to sign on for it, More FM 98.9 down in Tijuana, a cross-border radio station. Used to be a hip-hop format back in the 90s. Hella people know it from that. People know the rock en español stuff. And Mike Halloran, who was party time. Mike Halloran, who was one of the original founders of 91X here in San Diego, was linked up with this station at the time and doing program managing or program directing. And we met, we had lunch, and we got this project off the ground that I'd dreamed about that was literally like the reason why I came down here. And then it's so funny, it lasted a couple of years, and then it ended. And you move on to new things, and then San Diego Loyal became a thing. I still call games here in San Diego. I still have many friends and extended family in Tijuana, but no one can ever take, that year and a half or whatever it was where I was covering games and doing all sorts of shit in Tijuana for like 4.5 years straight. But there's that 2018-19 little window where I'm like, yo, I feel like I kind of done it, on the not to have like too low of expectations in life, but to kind of lead with gratitude and just feel like, yo, I'm kind of winning forever. Like that happened, and it came and it went, but like, yo, that was like a little kid thing, a very nuanced, specific ass little thing that all comes back to radio and Mexican soccer. And it's what brought me to San Diego. And it's in many ways, you could say, the reason why I'm sitting here fucking talking with you, sipping a danky local stout with you today. You know what I mean?
There we go.
Salute.
That's what's popping.
Cheers to Tijuana. Cheers to radio. Cheers to everybody involved with the craft of radio.
Dude, that's tight. Wow, man, you've lived quite the life. Like that's
careful.
That's pretty amazing, and it's not
So
even.
You start
over
talking like that, it's like, oh well, I'm wrapping it up here.
No, it's like super exciting. I mean, dude, you're still very young, and the fact that yeah, dude, you're super young, younger than I am. Like with the way you're discussing these things, like, bro, dude, I remember all that shit, like for sure, love that, and I think it's super awesome. The fact that you get to do the Tijuana thing, like, dude, I love that city. It's amazing. It really is. I'm glad you have that time. Do you get to still spend a lot of time down there?
No, not much at all since the pandemic. It's wild. I was kind of burnt out by the end of 2019 and early 2020, and was really stoked to have like my first season ever living down here, where I was going to be able to really go to Xolos games just as a fan.
Sick.
And just go, party with people. I still did my fair share of partying in the parking lot and having a good time in TJ, but to really not have any logistical for profit, for a living responsibility on the night was such a cool prospect. And I went down, they played Chivas in late February of 2020. And it was like, I can't wait to come back again. I got to just have the best night and just like see all my friends, and I'm not calling the game. I wasn't writing about the game. I'm not tasked with interviewing a player after. I just get to fucking hang out and have a good time. And so the pandemic hits like 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And just shuts everything down as far as with the border and with anything involving crossing. And once it came back, just throughout COVID, no, there was just never really any reason for me. And it was a lot of just separation and walls, sadly, literally and figuratively, felt like they went back up, where it was like, and it did. I mean, travel was prohibited for large, huge sums of time from 2020 and 2021. And so I finally got to go back a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, and see a person who hosted. You'll love this, Connor. I fucking love this stuff. So my homeboy Alex Rique, shout out Alex Rique. Alex hit me up in 2018 and he said, "Hey, I'm a huge fan of what you do. I'm a bilingual aspiring podcaster and MMA enthusiast who is a Xolos season ticket holder. I own a barber shop in Tijuana. It's called Barbershop Mexico. I'd like to offer you a complimentary, all-inclusive haircut experience and have you on. We're launching a bilingual podcast that you've helped inspire us to do with your English language broadcast. We're doing a Spanish and English Xolos podcast called the Xolocast." And so of course I took him up on this offer. I essentially had something that you're very familiar with, my first backer in Tijuana. I had someone and it was like, I finished the haircut. I was all fucking dapped up. I was like, yo, I'm feeling great about myself. It's like, hey, that's available to you anytime you're down here to call a game.
That's what's popping.
And it's like, and this is an experience that would cost me $60 in anywhere in San Diego. Yeah. Shout out to all the barbers earning a buck, but like the shit ain't cheap. The real full on experience. And so Alex then ends up doing commentary with various MMA things that Xolos had backed. He's now doing commentary, and he was just getting into it. His wife was a news anchor in Tijuana, and I'm doing the Xolos stuff, and now he's kind of like 2-3 years later, he's fucking exceeded both me and beautiful Nayeli. Now he's like doing like international MMA play-by-play in Spanish and English. He's bilingual. He can interview Latino fighters and do translations. And that all came, you know, through Tijuana, and that all developed. You know, this was like a huge ally for me, a person who'd pick me up, and we'd have an hour and get to cruise out and get lunch, and then I'd go back to the stadium and get back to work or whatever it was. You know, to have like real fucking friends in a city, that was everything. And Alex was, you know, one of many. There were so many special people, and I finally got to go back. Shit, it was like 2 months ago. I went to the game. Alex and his friends, they tried to bring their boys. They all have young kids now. So much has changed in like 2.5 years. And they tried to bring the boys to the game. The boys were not about the game. They were about anything other than the game. Somebody might have shit themselves. Some things were happening. They had to leave in like the 60th minute. So there I was. I came back down for this reunion with my friends. I love them dearly. But like, I came back down for this reunion. It was this very special night for me. And I'm just sitting in the stands. And Caliente's like, Xolos are really struggling these days. I don't want to talk too much about that. The stadium's like half full. And I'm just sitting up there like, all right, I got half a beer left. I'm going to enjoy myself. And I proceeded to finish my beverage, find one or two more, and do something that I'd never done in the 4.5 years that I was working, you know, part/full time down there, which was walk entirely from Estadio Caliente all the way back to the border.
Did you really? Wow.
3 miles. And it's only 3 miles, but anybody who knows, the first mile or two, totally good. There's people who are still out at the Cineplex, and people going to movies, and taquerias are open late and that type of stuff. The closer you get to the border, it changes a wee bit. So I was just, I don't know, man. There was this element of like, I've been missing some adventure in my life. I don't know what kicked in, but it kicked in. And I walked all the way from Caliente to the border. And there was a few times where I'm like, yo, I think I know what I'm doing here. I think I'm gonna kick up a jog right now. Little dark tunnel kind of spot.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna run through this spot. I'm gonna get back to light. Okay, I'm gonna get through here. And it was fun. It was fine. And I'm also grateful for that experience along with many more. But yeah, that's the only time I've been to Tijuana in the last like 2.5 years.
Damn.
So
dude, I like going there a lot. I like having the connections, but different reasons, of course, just for coffee. But also, you know, Tecate as well. I love Mexico. I really want to like be able to get in with somebody maybe in Mexico City, like Cafe con Irabia. Yeah, Irabia is an amazing roaster out there, dude. Mexico itself is just like, I share that passion. But like honestly, it's for me, it's definitely more about the coffee. I mean, down in Mexico as a country,
coffee is your soccer.
100%. That's what I'm saying. Is like, dude, the fact that when you go down to just, you know, 25 miles you were talking about, going over to Tijuana, you go and you get these experiences in coffee that are just, I'm not trying to, like, by no way am I putting down the San Diego coffee scene, but like in specialty coffee here, there's not too many spots that are doing it like they do in TJ.
Tijuana has a special coffee culture, dude.
Dude, the presentation, the dedication to the craft. It's like, dude, a lot of people have the passion for the coffee, and it's not just like at a couple shops. It's like at every shop. And it's not even just in Tijuana. It's in Tecate. In Tecate, Kilo Libre. Like, shout out to my boy Luis out there. Dude, my homegirl Larissa, she was saying, she was saying that like, yo, Kilo Libre is like the spot. Like if you have your coffee in Kilo Libre and Tecate, yo, like they know your coffee fucks, like your fucks. Like that coffee fucks with it. You know what I'm saying? It slaps. So it's like, all right, tight. And so having my coffee there and it sells out. And it's like, dude, I'm not saying that to boast. I'm saying that because it's like, bro, to have that connection with like the cultura and the people and just the culture in general, and then the coffee culture on top of that is like, yo, it's so important.
And like shout out to that entire, cultura mentality where if your coffee sucks as opposed to fucks,
yeah,
they're gonna tell you,
dude. Yeah,
and they have no shyness when it's like, no, we don't fuck with you,
no, dude.
We don't fuck with you. And
dude.
And there is an element of like this just pure respect level mentality,
dude.
Down
super
there.
respect,
and that's always what came to me when I first met and talked to the homie Alex Rique, where like how upfront he was. He introduced me to his father, who's this like old school Tijuana businessman, in his early 60s, and he comes over and he's like, no, like Nate's here, and he came over and shook my hand and was like, very a pleasure to meet you, like an honor. And I was like, yo, like that means a lot. Like my dad doesn't give that to everybody. Like don't take that lightly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so it's like back to the soccer radio, back to the coffee of the same thing of like, yo, if your roast is slacking, like you're not going to have that respect. And how you carry yourself matters. And I know you take inspiration from the Nipsey Hussles of the world, but like dealing with being an outsider, quote unquote, in another country, as much as we talk about cross-border culture and its importance, it's like, yo, the technicality of the fact is like you're in an entirely different environment.
You're an American. It doesn't matter like if you're like of Latin descent.
Yeah, Mexican American. I pinche pocho. I mean, it's like the mentalities
no.
are crazy, dude. You're an outsider in someone else's community that also happens to be another country. So like
exactly.
your talent, your passion, and your respect level better be apparent, and your coffee better be fucking good.
Yeah, so. You got to come correct. I mean, that's just in life, right? That's anything in life. But
so like, I was like with life, but there's almost like this added pressure, and I think that kept me kind of like on my toes in a good way.
Yeah.
Every day that I would go down there.
Yeah.
Every time I would go do anything down there was just like, okay, you're not going to get away with the things that you can just kind of get away with back home. They can kind of just blend in because you're always going to stand out down here,
Dude, 100%.
So you better come correct 100% of the time.
Dude, it's so funny. Me and my friend Ray, he's who I traveled through Mexico with, and whether it's in Guadalajara, whether it's Mexico City, TJ, wherever, Tecate, all the spots. We go, and he asked me one time, he's like, "Do you think they know we're not from here?" And I was like. Are you serious? I was like, bro, they for sure know we're not from here. Like, we could go in and be like, mi nombre es Cando, mi nombre es Breve, or Raul, whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, so? They're like, yeah, you're still an American. In mad respect, like, ain't nobody ever made us feel stupid or nothing like that. So, like, everybody's, like, again, a lot of respect. And it's super, I prefer to work that way. And I love it down there that way. But it's super funny when he said that to me. I was like, bro, stop it. Like, come on now. Like, they know we're not from here.
I'm stoked you're tapped into that world down there and that amount of respect that you have, because you've worked with so many different people through what you do with coffee and passion and knowledge. I saw your thing earlier today about the finding that middle ground between handwritten notes and pure, computer data technology era. Dude, yeah. Where it's like, yo, let me kind of find an in-between here, because, man, I value this old science, this pure, this research that's been done by hand, by soul for, hundreds and hundreds of years. And those are your idols. Those are the people whose notes you're kind of looking over the shoulder at to create your own moving forward, while still honoring the quote unquote, technological capabilities of the modern age. And
you have to adapt, right?
But I love that you can adapt while not completely disregarding everything. Where, like, to me, I'm like, when I say radio still matters to people, some people are like, yeah, hell yeah, Nate. And then other people are like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Let me tell you all the ways that radio has died out. Let me tell you all the ways that a lot of the shit that you do and the ways that you do it, haven't adapted. They haven't gotten on TikTok yet, type of energy. You know what I mean? True. And so to see what you're doing with that, it makes me really happy because that ties back to how I saw the coffee culture and the culinary culture of Tijuana, which was this incredible thing where, you know, you have this troubled, oftentimes this city with a horrendous fucking rap, oftentimes, sadly, for justifiable reasons. Let's just also add a very rough and tough and proud city, and a place where it's like we're so caught up in Tijuana as the border that I think that's what my year's really working down there. With the first 2 years, I was going down and covering games, and this is like Trump has just been elected. The border is such a polarizing thing, and it was all about kind of covering the border as much as it was what I was then doing 3 miles past the border. Once it became like, yo, I'm going for work. I'm really like, I'm working down here 3 days a week. Like, I'm in Tijuana. I eat lunch every, these days in Tijuana. I know people. I know local shop owners.
You're part of the city. You're part of the community.
I'm part of the community of the city, and it's an entirely different thing. And so the culinary, culture down there was always so funny because it's like you have the street taco, like, holy mecca, and that's so much of what it is. And then like the gastro scene that was really in full flow, going, on the rise all the time, and the coffee scene, and then there's the beer scene. You got the wine scene down in Valle de Guadalupe, and like the way that it all ties back to, and there's walls of exclusivity and shit that I don't fuck with plenty of places and people in Tijuana. But my experience in large part was this fascinating, like I think it's all summed up by, multiple nights where I would be at Tacos El Frank or any other, classic, iconic late night TJ taco spot, and you'd have like people of a very wide range economically. There'd be like a dude in a suit and a tie and a dude of much more humble means. And there'd be table to table eating the same tacos because the tacos are that good. The tacos will knock down the walls of classism, of fucking segregation. The tacos will solve world peace. Like, those tacos are on another level. And like the pride of Tijuana taco culture is this thing where like you have to go see it and taste it and feel it, because it always, like, and this is first getting to know it. Someone who's eaten and loved Mexican food my whole life, and it's like, yo, you've never had adobada cut from the freaking trompa. Like, you've never had it like here. This is the best street taco in the world.
No cap.
And and so it's like, you say shit like that, and it sounds outlandish. It sounds like I'm this.
No.
I'm discovering. I'm some gringo coming down. Oh my God, it's so amazing. It's like, no, the locals who I would get to know. It's like, yo, we take pride in this shit, homie. We take great pride in the fact that this is the best fucking taco that your ass is ever gonna taste, and the fact that they have that same mentality in Tijuana. That's why it's like so much respect for all my time down in TJ. And all the people and all the aspiring chefs and coffee professionals and bartenders and brewers and everyone who I got to meet down there once I really got to tap into that world and getting sponsorships and getting backing and stuff. Because it's like, it's a mentality, dude. It's a mentality where they want to make some of the best coffee in the world in Tijuana. And that sounds laughable, but it's like, hey, you can vouch for it. It ain't, like, because it comes back to what you really put into it,
Dude, yeah, there's a movement. I've been talking about this a lot on the podcast and just like in general going down there, but I would definitely say there's a huge movement going on down there in terms of like, I can totally agree with the food scene. The food scene is incredible, bro. And it's not even just in TJ, but like in the whole country is fucking fantastic. But TJ specifically, bro, me and my roommate be finding some of the best, like, I mean, it's cheaper than here. So it's like, we'll go to a fine dining restaurant and like the money we would spend was still cheaper than we would do at a restaurant here. So it's like, yo, like, let's go check this out, see what's popping, have the best seafood. You have the best like cocktails, like just amazing things. Because dude, the passion isn't just in coffee. It's in the soccer. It's in the people. It's in everybody doing what they doing down there in the restaurants, the fine dining restaurants, in Gacho, and like, bro, like, insane. Like, insane. Every time I go down there, I'm like, yo, this place is fucking so dope,
Yeah,
bro.
it's special. No, obviously I love
The passion is in everything.
in everything, and love to every region of Mexico. But for me, and with the stories that you're talking about, yeah, it's like I got immersed in a very unique place. In hindsight, at a very unique time too. Of like Tijuana, it was such a trippy time to get immersed in that, from 2016 to about right before the pandemic, 2020. What a time to arrive and just fucking dive head first into the deep end, and go for it. And I love the respect that you have, because you work with so many different people. That's what I was getting at a second ago. And like, so when I hear the respect and love and admiration that you have for a place like Tijuana that deals with a lot of negativity, it's really cool. That's mad respect to you, and mad respect, most importantly, just to everyone doing their shit,
Dude,
and
yeah.
back to Nip. I mean, like, do your shit and be you. That poem that I sent you about the homage to my hometown, of like, whose song is yours to sing? It's yours.
Yep, I saw
Fucking
that.
sing it. Be
Dude.
you. Be the best you. Shout out Megan Rapinoe. Be your best you. Like, any way you want to twist it up and smoke it, I'm good with it, as long as it comes back to you being obviously a good person to the broader world. But that comes first, and then right after that is be the coolest, best individual for you that you can be. And I love that for a lot of people with Tijuana, and all the stuff that I would learn from the Alex Riques of the world, and folks who, from all sorts of different backgrounds down there, and different class levels down there, and various different things that I would learn, of like that feeling of pride, man. That feeling of like, yo, yeah, I'm up against it. I've dealt with some bullshit. I've been in a place that is scorned by Americans and Mexicans alike. I'm in a place that is laughed at by people in my own country as, oh, that fucking place, and by people just north of me who I'm actually geographically closer with, who go, oh God, don't ever step foot there. You're going to die as soon as you get there. And who am I? Like, who am I as a Tijuanense? And I think that's where the boxing history, bro, like tying all these things of like half degrees of separation, like Tijuana is a boxing town, has dope ass boxing history. Julio Cesar Chavez had to kind of go from being a Sinaloa fighter to being, a lot of people would refer to the great Julio Cesar Chavez as a Tijuana fighter, like hailing from Tijuana, Mexico. Once he got big enough and it was like, yo, we can really set the record straight. Like, I'm from Sinaloa. I am, here. But without Tijuana, I'm not Julio Cesar Chavez. Without the years that he spent as basically just like, he would do they would do a fight like every 2 weeks, and there's records of all this shit, dude. And then that was the knock on him. What did homeboy say? The gringo that fought him and got his ass kicked, or he said he's impressive record fighting all those Tijuana cab drivers. Ooh. Which was fighting words, and then they knocked his ass out. But the history of boxing in this city, I love how it ties back to what you do, and your sponsorships and backing of, as an independent business owner, being a sponsor, being a backer of skateboarders, surfers, fighters, and boxers. Like, you got this mad love for the combat sports, and we were joking off air about how, for me, I had like this weird resentment towards the MMA UFC world for a long time, because it was like destroying boxing for a while. Like, boxing became fucking irrelevant for like 10 years, dude. And the restoring of the heavyweight division recently, you were talking about
amazing,
Tyson Fury,
bro.
and Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
Like, I love them all. But before them, you got to go only like a few years. Like, boxing was riding this like long wave of semi-irrelevance, and I would always bitterly...
But can I rebuttal to that?
Absolutely.
Can I rebuttal to
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely.
I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, please, it needs to happen more often.
Okay.
Please, thank you.
Can I actually get a beer right here?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna grab one of these so I don't have to go back there, dude. No, I want to push back on that only because, bro, I say this with much respect to boxers. I have a very high respect for boxers because it's a hard sport. You get hit in the head a lot, and that's way more than MMA or even in Muay Thai. Yeah, interesting. Right?
Interesting.
This is a pumpkin stout from Mike Hess Brewing. We drank the caffeine and green stout before with Seek, and then this one. Okay, But my question to you is like, there was no boxers at the time, like in the rise of MMA, and then when MMA was like kind of like, yeah, you're right, like it was taking out boxing.
Yeah.
But there was no boxers that were as exciting at that time.
Oh, the way that ties in is hugely. But without Tyson Fury and the Deontay Wilder rivalry, I feel like boxing is still stuck in a rut.
But no, dude,
I
I respectfully disagree with that too, because like, dude, there's some guys on there like I can't think of his name, but he's what's his name? Is like Devontae or something like that. He's a gnarly dude, but him and King Ryan are gonna probably fight. King Ryan's amazing. Ryan Garcia, I think is his name. Tyson Fury. I mean, obviously, Deontay Wilder. Thank you. And then there's like a couple of the welterweights. They've been on like Joe Rogan and stuff. Like, there's some serious talent in boxing right now. Aside from like the Jake Paul shit that keeps happening.
That shit I can't stand, and that's also. So I want to clarify something too, because I know you got a heavy listenership in the San Diego County and beyond MMA community. I have come to grow up a bit. I have come with my respect of the craft of what is going on in the cage.
Yeah.
That's not. I think there's far more with that period that it is what it is. There was a downfall into borderline irrelevance of the sport of boxing in the United States of America. Never in Mexico, never in the Far East, never in London. That's what I'm saying. As far as in this country, in the media landscape that I work in and make half a fucking living in, boxing when I was growing up was like, it felt like it was 10 times as big of a deal as it was through the courses when I was really, really getting into the industry, when I was really covering sports as a whole. And so during that time period,
those are super good. Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, like you got like.
So I'm talking Julio Cesar Chavez, where it's like, no, that yields into, and we loved boxing so much when people were already saying, kind of what I'm talking about, that era of half irrelevance had already started. We were still watching we still had the who's got the black box pay-per-view. I can say a statute of limitations, only 5 years. Who had the black box pay-per-view on Ford Street in the back fucking corner of Watsonville? Like, we're watching Bernard Hopkins, we're watching Sugar Shane Mosley, we're watching oh man, there was so
like Holyfield. Are you talking about like Sugar Ray Leonard?
No,
like,
so
that's too old, huh?
That's older. That's what I'm saying. Is like we were watching fighters when people had already said boxing had died. Like we were still riding with boxing, and this is the UFC is really kicking off right around this time.
It was like 93 when they did it, right? That was the first one, 93? Was it?
I'm really talking about as far as like
No, I'm
blowing
talking about,
up.
I'm talking. Well, yeah, but like
so like I'm back into when you went to that Warriors Pistons game. I'm talking like 05,
04, okay,
06, that era where the way that the UFC just, you talk about combat sport analogy, just felt like it just whipped the shit out of boxing. Bro. And it did.
What's more exciting?
And it was. And I think there were so many more reasons that I, felt very like hard done, and a lot of people where I was from felt very kind of like hard done by how boxing, but I think boxing did it to itself. I think let me just sum this up very simply, or as simply as I can without overcomplicating things, Connor, which I may do from time to time in case you haven't heard right here on this very podcast. I think what you said is so valid because there were so many things that boxing and the industry and the corruption and just all sorts of nasty shit with boxing that boxing did to itself that I didn't want to examine or talk about. I just wanted to UFC is the reason why boxing is. Yeah. No, both could be successful. We're in an era now where it's showing that both can be successful. Yeah. That fighters can train at the same gyms and be, comrades and actually have respect for each other. Not always.
Not always.
Not
all the time.
Not always, but from time to time. That's what I'm saying. But like, so you see how even that statement where it's like that shit still exists of this wall, this separation between the two. And as the purest boxing fan, and when you really, you're going back to Holyfield, Tyson, and Sugar Ray and Duran in the 80s, it's like, I'm a nostalgic. I'm a romantic. So it's like, you give me some, you say you got Ali Frazier on VHS, like turn that shit on. Like we're watching, you got some old footage of Rocky Marciano. You got fucking weird little grainy, stuff of Jack Dempsey and Jack Johnson. And like, I will watch old box. It's so Americana. And I think there was a long time, this is where it's like, shout out to all the local MMA fighters who are fucking fighting for their dream and fighting for their opportunity. Because when I matured, when I grew up with this mindset, when I outgrew some of this petty bullshit that was going through my mind as a boxing fan, I want to see boxing be, worshipped, and who loved little amateur boxing and sparring sessions and
Dude,
everything that I love about the sport.
We can go to some amateur boxing if you want to go. Bro, I got you.
Pro boxing, amateur boxing, it's like I love everything about it, and it was so entrenched in like my nostalgic spirit that I think that was a big reason why I had that initial sort of resentment. Not that it was that's almost too severe of a word, but just sort of like, no, not for me. I'm riding with the shit I grew up with. You know what I mean? That type of energy towards the rise of the UFC, because it was this new, you talked about it was more, I can without a shadow of a doubt admit now, well, the reason why a lot of this happened through that time period of, that kind of, when Bernard Hopkins knocked out De La Hoya, when De La Hoya's celebrity kind of wound down in my hometown, he came back a couple times, but it wasn't quite the same. That was like the last big name boxer in Watsonville where I was at, and it felt like a lot of other places, and it just, the prestige felt like it went down a little bit. You had because Mayweather was boring as fuck. And so it's crazy how it comes back to fighting style, where it's like Floyd was a genius. Floyd was defensive soccer. Floyd was the Pistons and Spurs of that era in basketball. Defense.
But he had hands back when he was younger, though. Before he
did,
and
it's great. So that's what's crazy is that those were fights when Floyd had mad respect with all the Mexicano fighter fans who I grew up with, where it was like, yo, Pacquiao and Mayweather were like young. Hey, did you watch the undercard guy? Like that shit. That's the exciting young dude. Like that was the level of passion for like whoever had HBO or whoever had the black box pay-per-view. Like people legitimately followed the sport of boxing where I was from and had this, then this thing that I would rediscover down in Tijuana, and I would look up all these fight records of Julio Cesar Chavez, and it's like, yo, the fandom of this. And so with all that said, the respect that I've come to have for everybody involved with pushing for their dream, for their fucking marathon continuing as far as what they're doing with MMA, be it locally, be it in Mexico, all the fighters who I got to meet through the homie Alex Rique and like interview a couple of them, and like getting to know these dudes on a human level. There's a heavy ass poem about, where one of them actually drops in on a night in Tijuana in Backroads and Borderlines in my independent poetry book. And so I love that I've grown up a little bit with that shit. And I realized that boxing beat its own ass for a lot of years and has finally gotten up. And is ready to go again. And I'm ready to ride with any local boxers out there. And I love all of the caffeine and green mentality of like what you do, where you're a skateboarder, you're a surfer, you're a fucking poet, you're a boxer, a UFC fighter, an MMA fighter. Like, I love the concept of backing these individuals.
Well, they're my homies. That's the thing. Like, you got to show love to your homies. That's all it is, though.
But you're in a position, and this is I'm not just blowing smoke at you here, dude, where it's like you're in a position where, of course, like an entourage is an entourage. Like, you could be going into a street fight, you could be going into a sanctioned professional fight. It's probably better to have homies than to be by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's just common knowledge of the world. But to actually be in a position to have a brand, to have a respected coffee roaster that fucks with, like, northern Mexico, that has respect in various communities around San Diego County, to have a name of like, yo, you're sponsored. What it means when I would talk to these fighters, dude, of like, especially in the Mexican culture, because it ties back to soccer for me of English Premier League soccer jerseys and the kits. It's one sponsor, and even that was a very recent thing, as opposed to the Mexican and the Latin American kits.
It's just splattered on there,
17 different sponsors on there, and it's like,
yeah, dude.
And that's for the team. That's on a team corporate level, and so it's much more special, and that can sometimes get laughable when it's the individual dude. I love it.
I love it super hard.
But back to the combat sports. I don't know whether it's MMA or whether it's boxing. Like that feeling that I would hear from these dudes of like, yo, I got my first sponsor. Like what that would mean to these dudes. So like, no smoke at you, dude. It's all fucking love, man. The fact that you're in a position to be you're a homie. You're like, you'd be there to back them no matter what, but like you're in an actual position to like, yo, you're backed by Caffeine and Green. And hopefully Caffeine and Green is your first of many endorsements that you get.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, big facts. That's
what's up.
Dude, no, I love well, shout out to all my team for sure. Like, I appreciate those kind words, man. I really do say thank you. I appreciate that. Like,
I got to emphasize the kind words to all of the MMA fighters out there,
Dude,
and all
no.
of the MMA community of San Diego. Shout out all the boxers
dude,
as well.
you should really talk to my homie Danny. He loves boxing so much. You would like really get down some boxing super hard. He's really about it. But yeah, no, dude, like to get, to talk about that for a second, like the team that I have here is like all the people that like I've either known them for, like 10 plus years, or just like they've have like big respect like in my heart, and I've seen them grow and as people, not even just grow up, but like as people. So I like to make sure that like I can give you all of me, and like what I can give you is like if you drink coffee and you're like about that and you're on your hustle and you're trying to really do it, like, yo, like come fuck with me, like, because I will like show that love, because that's exactly what I'm about. So it's like with all these, everybody you've seen here, even the dogs, like, yo, they're all my people. Like, these are like it, minus the rappers. I mean, I got Nas in the corner, I got Biggie, but like those things are like the people that like I feel in somewhat like raised me. Like, I look to them.
Those are gods. That's iconography,
dude.
But you're on the ground with your homies,
dude. That's what it is, and that's why I fuck with my people when I fuck with them. Like, I don't have to see everybody all the time, but whenever I see you, it's all love and like, hey, let me give you some coffee. If you're going on a trip, here, I'll give you some money for some food or something. Like, I can't act like I'm like balling out of fucking control. I can get these people like whatever, but
no, but that's
like,
what I mean of like that feeling of the thing in Tijuana for me, when I was told like I had every time I went down there, I had like a top-notch barber experience.
Yeah.
That's huge. That was like, you start adding that up. It's like to give somebody, they're getting free coffee or something. Oh, they're getting free haircuts. It's like, no, that shit adds up. But B, it's back to like that combination of both viable and like deeply, I don't want to say sentimental, but just like fucking spiritual, of like when I would hear the dudes in Tijuana, when they would get like what that meant, where it's like, yo, this isn't you're not sponsoring the soccer team. You're not sponsoring the basketball team. Like, you're sponsoring me. Like, you're actually real fucking to the core. And that's where like, it's so funny, man, with boxing. And as I've grown up and grown to greatly respect all of the MMA colleagues in the world, the fact that just the art of individual sports, and whether it's combat or whether it's something that has zero combat at all, or something like tennis. I mean, even out of sports, if you go to chess, like this concept of a 1v1 encounter. Yeah. And that's why I love when, like, I always grew up with boxing was compared to chess, and like how Floyd Mayweather, once he, I kind of fucked up his hands a little bit, got a little in tune with how he was going to do things from fight kind of like 15 forward, Floyd Mayweather became a chess player. And so many boxers, like the way that you approach a fight of round 4 is when I'm going to do this. And a lot of people's perception of like, it's two dudes duking the hell out of each other and fucking trying to hit each other as fast as they can. That does happen from time to time. There's the Hagler Hearns, whatever, fight of the century, 2 greatest rounds ever type of shit. And with a lot of the Mexican boxing upbringing that I had, there are a few fan demographics that love that type of fight more. Just go ahead, duke it out. I want blood. Let's see some punches. And I would I loved finding as a student of it all, this middle ground. And obviously, anybody interest in actually sparring or doing any fighting or stepping in the ring myself, I'm like, let me examine this whole chess style here. Yeah, I don't want to do I don't really want to do the first one. I'm trying to be on TV when I'm getting a little older here.
Well, Mexican fighters have heart.
And it's
have
the
that
heart
passion,
and soul.
that passion.
And so I always loved like finding a love for all of it. Bernard Hopkins was a guy where like we had access to my homie's uncle, was it Tío Victor, fucking deep like Watsonville out Riverside Drive, dude, back in this era where he had the black box, and there'd be a HBO pay-per-view that we'd get on his fucking black box like every weekend or every other weekend. We'd be out there, and even if it was a big Mexican fighter, all the whole family would come. But if it was just kind of any other fight, me and my homie would just be like, hey, can we go to your uncle? Let's go to your uncle's house like Saturday night. Let's go watch the fights. And like I just loved the different styles of these individuals, and the concept of really appreciating, finding that middle ground. And people hated Bernard Hopkins, was probably, the best pound for pound fighter in the world through this very formidable era for me. And Bernard Hopkins was, madly disrespected, where even his knockout of De La Hoya was sort of like poo-pooed and kind of laughed. Oh, you fucking hit him in the liver. You know, he kind of like, he
Dude, a
fucking,
liver shot, dude.
he
A
hit
liver
him in the
shot.
liver. Like, what
That's
the fuck?
super
You know?
legit.
But it was this whole idea of he's a boring fighter. You don't get like Bernard's not out there bleeding. He's not out there throwing haymakers. And it's like, well, he's in his 40s and he's still a champion.
Dude,
like,
he's a technician. He just knocked him out in the liver. You don't even need to spread. You don't need to spread blood. You get hit in the liver, dog. You're out.
And
like,
and for a lot of people who grew up like, and this is crazy, man, because like for any people knowledgeable about Mexican boxing history, and this is shit that I got like more well versed, you know, in as all the way to, I'm a student of this shit. I want to learn more about it for the rest of my life. But like those years in Tijuana, I learned more about, because Julio Cesar Chavez's prime is kind of right before I'm alive. I'm a baby. I'm maybe, you know, kind of vague memories of the end of it. But like De La Hoya beat Chavez in the early 90s, I think it was 92, 93, and that was this huge split in Mexican boxing fandom. You had the Mexican-American pretty boy from LA. You had Chavez, who's the fucking like Sinaloense, Tijuana-rooted like Mexican hero, and they would like spar together. They loved each other, but De La Hoya beat Chavez, and that changed. There was like the generational switch, and so then I grew up with De La Hoya as just like the face of Mexican boxing. And so when Hopkins beat him, like I said, De La Hoya still had a few big name fights in the years following that, but Hopkins was respected by anybody in the boxing community as the best pound for pound fighter through this very important era where like I'm into like scrapping and sparring with my friends and actually like having a, you know, people laugh at me like an intellectual approach to two dudes fucking slugging it out with each other.
Dude,
but it's like
art.
it's a chess match,
Yeah.
and there was so much beautiful history. There's the Americana, there's the nostalgia, the international nostalgia and romanticism I was talking about earlier with boxing and the pride and the culture. And you talk about highlighting the pride of Mexican boxers,
art.
you know?
It's a martial art. Boxing is still a martial art. It's a way of defense. Like, yo, you're doing this, and that is art, bro. That's like you. Right. You are art.
Hey, and poetry.
Yo,
and shout out.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, no, I wanted to get to that.
Everybody.
Like, I wanted like also the hip hop thing. So when we actually, to segue from the boxing, when we were
sparring here, we had like a good little. That was fun,
That was like, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. That was a lot of fun. The one thing I want to talk about too.
Shout out to the boring fighters. Shout out to the fighters who come out and they like aren't all injured and they win. Good shit. Like you might be onto something there with that strategy. The whole stick and move thing. It's not just stick and stand. It's stick and move.
Dude, you got to get in there and bang it out. Yeah. You just got to bang it out.
No, I'm like, it might be wise to like try to not get hit.
Dude, yeah, always. Dude, that's especially in boxing.
No, I'm sorry to rant. I'm sorry to keep going with this.
Because
that was the thing with Bernard. That was the biggest knock that would always piss me off. Where like I have such a special spot in my heart for B-Hop, and he has such a cool fucking nickname. And it's not even like a crazy nickname. He was the executioner as far as nickname, but also he was B-Hop. It's fucking Bernard Hopkins. It's B-Hop, and the knock that he would get, where like. The one time he hit the liver punch on De La Hoya, that was this kind of iconic moment. But for large parts of his career, he would win fights on decisions. And like, there wouldn't really be that much action in the fight. And I remember like, and it was my homie's uncle hated him. That's fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Like somebody
he was a point fighter essentially.
He was. And so I like learned about like corrupt ass boxing judging worlds, but then also we would but then we would talk about being a student and a romantic with this stuff is where like we would score the fights. We would watch the fights and me and my buddy would score them, and we'd finally like convince his uncle of like, hey, we need a third. You know, it can't just be me and my boy. Yeah. Like we need a third judge, and we'd judge the fights, dude. And it would be super cool where it would match up, you know, at the end of it. And so yeah, the mad love to all the smart point fighters out there. I like that, who have been mad disrespected over the years.
Dude. But so, like, shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to touch on, so at Winyl Club, after, like, we had initially met and stuff, you were, like, sitting at the table and, like, you showed me, like, there was, like, this picture of Nipsey that you had, and then you wrote a poem on the back, and it's, like, TMC at 3 a.m., right? Is that what it's called? I got it right. Fuck yeah. Okay. And you gave it to me. I've read it. And I definitely like the whole poem is very, very good. I do believe that my favorite part was actually at the end. It's like, I don't remember the first two lines, but basically you broke it down like TMC. And I thought that was very cool. I thought that was super dope, and I actually really, really liked. I really liked it so much. We were talking about this like via text before the podcast, but I was asking you if like, yo, if you could read that, if you'd be down.
Absolutely,
Dude. Fuck
I
it.
could spit it off top for you. It's one of my favorites.
You are a poet. That's another
I
thing
am,
why I
and
wanted to have you on.
No,
here.
and what a transition from talking about martial arts and my deep love for like I have a connection to boxing that is through the same place that gave me a connection to soccer. So like boxing always has this very sentimental, call it spiritual kind of connection to me, and I love within a lot of Mexican literary culture that I've been so privileged and blessed to be immersed in throughout my life, but also in very much in recent years, kind of reigniting fires. The parallels of Mexican boxing and a lot of poetry scenes in general, but in two very specific places, and those places are Tijuana and Juarez, and those are the two, and San Diego and El Paso. And so the only two major metropolitan cross-border areas that exist across a 2,000-mile long border. It's a lot of fucking desert. It's a lot of holes out in the middle of nowhere type of things. But you have Tijuana and San Diego, and you have El Paso,
And
Texas,
Juarez,
and Juarez as these two kind of sister cities, call them what you will, cross-border communities. And I've loved all these parallels that I've seen, academics and doctors and professors draw between boxing, not only the love for boxing, but actually getting into the science and the different styles of fighting and the different, you got your point boxer and you got your very strategic boxer, you got your haymaker throwing heavyweight boxer, you got your fucking badass, lightweight Mexican slugfest boxer. You got all these different distinct styles and how they tie to poetry and how they tie to what it means to be a poet. And so many, not to try to feed into the whole Hemingway mentality too much, because you don't want to get carried away with that stuff for some obvious reasons. You want to be kind to yourself and show yourself a little self-care. But when it comes to the toughness and the grit and what it means to step in a boxing ring and what it means to stare another human being down and know that they are trying to hurt you in a competitive format, it is good for him competitively to beat the shit out of you. Now, ding, 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 go.
Yeah.
And the amount of people in the poetry world who just, for better or worse, for them, for their own situations, they really don't, see the world that way. They see the world in a bit of a softer fashion. And I've loved indulging and becoming very immersed in all these poets who draw these parallels between not any other sport. Not, I've got books of poetry about soccer. I've got other people's works that are all about, I've written poems about the Golden State Warriors, written like sports and baseball and old New York baseball of the 50s. It's like sports and culture and poetry are ripe together. But the stuff I'm talking about, it ain't no other sport but boxing. And this idea of this parallel of what it means to, and I get not to get carried away with this stuff because you got to calm yourself down and got to be peaceful to get some sleep. But to have that mentality of when you fucking open up your notebook and you put ink down like you're stepping into the ring, and you think of your boxing inspirations the same way that you think of your iconic poet inspirations, and they're one and the same, and Julio Cesar Chavez was a poet, and that type of toughness that comes from, what it means to write poetry and kind of rethinking that, and without feeding into too much where it can become a little toxic and over the top of, reeling it in and just kind of seeing how it's one and the same if you let it marinate and ride with it. So mad love to all the professors and everyone I've got to talk to and read from out in El Paso and Juarez and everybody who we've talked goddamn ad nauseum about in Tijuana and here in San Diego, from the fighters to the poets and one and the same and all in between. Shout out to Josue Baltazar as well, before I read the poem, before I spit the poem off top. The artist who drew that beautiful Nipsey Hussle portrait. And I brought you a bigger color version of the portrait. Such beautiful, beautiful artwork too up here. This mural of Nipsey that you have here in Caffeine and Green. Can you shout out the artist one time for this, for your piece?
Slow. His name is Slow.
Just outstanding. Like much love, Slow. This is a really special mural inside of Caffeine and Green. Nipsey Hussle means the world to me, means the world to Kano, means the world to millions upon millions of people. And Josue Baltazar is an artist, an independent artist out of Chula Vista. Brilliant, talented individual. Follow him, buy his art, support everything he does. Me and him linked up on this project of Backroads and Borderlines, which was my little brain baby of assembling various bar napkin poems and little pieces of writing from over the years, from all the various, back to the Volvo travels, back to Watsonville, back to the couch surfing around LA, back to the you name it, assembling many poems, kind of a little bit spiritually geolocated poems, and a lot of cultural geography in play, a lot of icons in play, and having an independent poetry book that is in essence an homage to Nipsey Hussle, in the sense that I wanted it to be a little bit exclusive and not to like exclude anybody, but to really value the art, and also to create something that really matters, to create a connection to the art for the person reading it, where it's not just some dime a dozen stack that you can get off fucking Amazon, where it's like you had to buy it out of my trunk. You had to buy it from me. I had to ship it to you directly if you bought it, and I wanted to make exactly 100 of them. That was the homage to Nipsey, and I wanted to sell them for $100 a piece. And some people told me I was crazy. Some people told me I was foolish. Some people told me, you're driven and you should go for it. And I balanced it all together, and of course I went for it. And shout out to Josue, because I paid Josue to make me a cover and a few little layout things with the book, and that blossomed into this various portraitures that he did that were featured within the book, of a few heroes and a few illustrations correlating with the poems. And got a local print shop out of National City to shoot them off for me. And those are the only people that ever touched the project. And then it was me with some nice clear sleeves that I invested in, and made it a real legit thing. Every copy was numbered on the back, 1 of 100, 2 of 100. It was written in the foreword of like, you are holding something that there's only 99 others of these. And that's... There is a small asterisk to that I will sum up in a second. But the book sold out in 3.5 months. And shout out to everybody who supported this thing, who supported Backroads and Borderlines. And then there were a few overflow copies. There were a few that were slightly misprinted, or a few little, and I called them the bootlegs. And after making my money and doing my hustle that was for me and for my livelihood, but also as an homage to every independent artist out there, and very much an homage to the late, great Nipsey Hussle and everything that he gave us in terms of blueprint on blueprint. I had these 10 basically extra copies of the book. I was out of the fancy sleeves. I was out of little inserts I did. It was just the book itself. And I did one little post on Instagram and was like, hey, if you didn't get one of the 100, get this thing, and we'll give all the money to Border Kindness, which is a beautiful nonprofit out of Tijuana and Mexicali that helps mainly with asylum seekers who are stuck in fucking limbo in Tijuana with child care for, we could talk all about another time about the sins of the border and CBP and the fucking child separation. And so this organization, Border Kindness, is just incredible nonprofit. Please give them some money, give them some time, research what they're all about. And we raised $600 for Border Kindness in the name of Backroads, in the name of the 10 bootleg copies of Backroads and Borderlines. So
Sick.
that was really, really special. And I just wanted to spotlight Border Kindness, Josue Baltazar, Nipsey Hussle, and every other independent artist who is doing their shit, who is no different than the poet, than the boxer, than the mixed martial artist, than the you name it, where it's like if you're kind of on that, you still got a crew, you still got people backing you, always be grateful, but you got a little bit of that lone wolf in you. You got a little bit of that, like, man, I'm in a world where I'm an individual. I'm not on as much of a team. Like that's where that respect of boxers, I think, really came from as a kid, and why I loved seeing academics and doctors, people with, deep degrees in poetry and writing and all this. Not that stuff always matters, but like it's cool to see people with mad credentials write basically their thesis on the parallels of boxing and poetry. And I'm like, oh, someone gets it. All right, someone finally gets it. Yeah. Mad love. Did I say I was gonna read a piece?
Yes. Yes, we were gonna read TMC at 3 a.m. Let's pause for a second, actually. And we're back. Whew. All right, sir. So, for everybody that is ready to hear this, I'm super excited to hear this. This is TMC at 3 a.m. This is straight from your book. Read it one more time. The title.
This is actually out of the book. This wasn't a part of the book. This was from January 2021. Shout out Brittany Black, shout out Unity Runners, shout out Sophia Espinosa Lopez, and shout out Nipsey Hussle. And without all of those people and organizations, we would not have TMC at 3 a.m. in the backroads and borderlines mentality,
Okay,
within the family.
Might be.
No, you're good. I think
I would like you to read one from there.
I was gonna say I'm gonna spit, because TMC at 3 a.m. is a piece that I know so well. I could just spit it to you off top.
Okay.
But I'll read a selection or two from Backroads to close out the poetry show form, the period of podcast here. I really like this. I like closing it out this way. Fantastic stuff, Kano.
Thank you.
Over to you. All right, TMC
at 3 a.m.
At 3 a.m. You get a little bit of cream and suddenly it all makes sense. Now you got dreams to make a difference. You're rinsing off all that evil dishes, rising over death and praying for good wishes. Amid all the wicked and sick, twisted conditions and life's little kicks in the ass that shifted your intentions, made you want to be something worth writing for. Made you into anything your mind's got in store. There's a whole lot more where that shit came from, and a whole gang of stories about where you learned the game from, and even more about all that shit you don't know. All the things you gotta learn before it's time to go home. And every pen drop of ink is a blessing in its own. But by the time it dries up, the future's already known. Throwing up a peace sign, but all you see is war zones. Calling on God, but all you get is dial tone and a ride along with your very own devil informant, telling you all about his plea deal and what's really important. But what's foreign to them is local to you. So you ride for that shit and you always stay true. Yeah, it's written on the back page of the neighborhood review. And on the front lines of your soul, that marathon continues. So whether talking to yourself or screaming at the masses, just take a deep breath and remember the meaning of all the classes and all that classic game lacing that took place in days past. Your legacy trails like Humboldt doobies. Go on and blaze that. Yeah, forever FDT. Fuck CBP. ACAB, said Breonna Taylor. R.I.P. Invigoration on your back. Damn shoulders getting tipsy. But the strength to hold on is always in showing love to Nipsey. Yeah, you could write 1,000 letters, but sum it up in just 3. Now and forever. TMC.
Damn, that was tight. That was, dude. It's so interesting hearing you say it because it's definitely sounded different when I read it. But now that I hear it, I'll always hear it the way you said it. I love that.
I'll forever read it. I think that's what's really funny is because I deal with I do so much like blues crooning stuff. I have a lot of singing work that I do. I sent you some of the Irish blues shit that I'll do. Really fucking with music. Yee! Mix in a little Bay Area meets
shit.
Dublin meets Dublin. If you know, you know. You know what I mean? There you go. It's like from Vallejo to Cork, Liverpool to Oakland, man. It's
dude,
so many different influences where I've got Liverpool and Scouse poetry and Irish poetry and all these poetic influences, New York City and jazz poetry and Jack Kerouac and beat poetry and Allen Ginsberg, and go back to, there's few bigger heroes in this world than James Baldwin and James Baldwin's poetry and so many different styles and art forms. And so it's always funny for me, struggling with kind of identity in a performance sense, where I don't want to ever sound fake. I don't want to ever sound like I'm impersonating anything, where it's no, I'm just a crazy motherfucker and I've got 15 different styles floating within me at all time. I can call a soccer game. I can spit a poem. I can spit a rap. I can sing a song. I want to do it all. I want to learn how to be better at all of it. I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of it. I want to be better at all of it, And so,
I love it.
You know what I mean? It's I got no walls up. I'm humble. Teach me more. I want to be better at all of it. And so with the TMC thing, it always cracks me up because it's it's written, it's TMC at 3 a.m. and the homegirl Brittany Black, City Heights proud, one of the best friends I've ever made in San Diego. She, for my birthday, went up to the Marathon store on Crenshaw. I guess she got the sweater, she got the TMC sweater from the source, from the actual source. And had just her own deep spiritual affinity for Nip and going back way deeper than myself, and which was so it was a very humbling thing where she got me a Fuck Donald Trump, she got me the FDT and a TMC flag sweater, one of the original designs when they launched the Marathon store back in, this is when they semi-legitimized into the Marathon brand back 2012, 2013. It was a big first design, the red and white flag with the TMC across the front. Mm-hmm. And I remember I put that sweater on and then wrote that late at night, and it was smoked 5 joints and had 2 bottles of wine and was kind of shit, feeling real, in touch with God kind of level, you know what I mean? And
You're just crossfaded.
And I'm just crossfaded, but I'm in touch with God tonight, Tonight's the night I have my religious experience. And my religious experience was, for better or worse, was fucking writing a quick poem, and letting something bleed out of my hands.
That's when you wrote that?
So that's when I wrote that.
Oh, shit.
And then I read it. I read it into my phone at 3:00 that morning. I wrote it. I finished it at 2:30, and then I remember I was
"Oh, you wrote it in your phone, meaning you didn't?"
No,
write
I
it down
wrote it
by
wrote it by hand, and then I'm saying then I did a first original reading of it.
Oh, into your phone.
So there's an original recording from about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now. That it would be interesting to compare the two because I'm always in that zone when I read that poem. Mm-hmm. I feel like I start spitting that shit off the top of my head, and
your eyes were closed, so everybody can't see it, which is everybody. Yo, dude, he had his eyes closed. He was really feeling the moment. I think you only opened your eyes one time in the middle of that.
I had to say hello.
Yeah, no, it was dope. No, I fuck with that. That's dude, you were in the zone, son. That's what's popping.
So I feel it's always 3 a.m. when I read that thing. Here, we'll do. I always
pick another favorite.
Let's do a little Sunday Cross, and then we'll finish with a little. Ooh,
let's get it.
Okay, Sunday Cross. We'll do the couple of Tijuana poems here.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
All right.
Sunday Cross. That little boy with toy gun in hand between border fence dark and rusted, pointing it back toward the U.S. side, blasting assorted rides of southern entrance. Put it away! Put it away, I glance concerned on mistaken object paranoia. And little boy shot sweet lamps at me. Centered. Not left, not right, centered. Connected in eyesight, firm and fair. And I swear to God herself, I wasn't scared. And then he looked me around head to toe, surveyed my spirit, and said I had to go. Little boy capped me in the face, pew, and laughed. Now, how's that for some holy Sunday mass? And it was wailing on the way down to a temperamental town where frowns go right upside the heads of smiles and make them smile and frown all over again. Amid dreams of northbound steps, that wire-tied tight, wicked and rusty, weathered by years of standing for evil in the face of Mother Earth's intentions. And it's those same outlaw whistles walking me cross corners of my conscious confusion, streets of smoke, paved in madness and delusion, with malice in my heart only for what stands behind. Toxicity cultivated in depths of soulful dirt, the soil of cynical cries, laughter making love to repentance. High in minds of a million manic cells milling about my mentality. Milligrams of happiness and hope. Kicking it with kilos of empathy. Bumping RBL. Yeah, bumping RBL. Ruthless by law. Bounce to this. There's no bammer on the border. No, there ain't no bammer on the border as I'm blowing besitos to CBP. Yes, steady blowing besitos to the punk-ass poisonous CBP. And if you want to get the rabbit at the LOG, you gotta make a co-motion like a DOG to the CBP. Yeah, SMDFTB to the punk-ass CBP. And that's crossing the border on a Sunday back in 2019 for yours truly, Nate Abaurrea. Shouts out to RBL Posse and Waylon Jennings. Pick your gangster poison. I love it all.
Dude, the RBL was pretty funny. I think I laughed right when you said that.
I'm glad you got
RBL, and then you said RBL twice. It's like, dude, yeah, RBL's fucking dope. You
gotta loosen things up a little bit. You know, it can get a little tense and crazy in this poetry. That was an early piece from Backroads and Borderlines. There's pieces from Minneapolis, from Humboldt County, from Portland, from San Francisco, a lot of San Francisco, a lot of Los Angeles, a lot of San Diego. And then late in the book, we tie back to Tijuana. So I'll read the heavy Tijuana piece that's got a cool MMA boxing connection. As I was out working fights, I was out, covering, doing social media influencer work and doing Instagram stories and covering, doing little commentary hits for the MMA fights that were out in the Plaza de Toros, right next to Estadio Caliente. And it was like it was so over the top in the sense of like there's a notorious private zoo back there.
Behind the stadium?
Behind the stadium.
Yeah, where the Greyhounds race.
Over to the side. So the fights were in a ring inside the zoo. It was the most, and I was going through a lot of things, and I'll say no more. And I'll tie it all back to my hometown of Watsonville, California. We'll tie it to Tijuana. We'll hit a little December action right here.
Hey, vámonos.
Shouts out to all the Sagittarius out there, and then we'll read something light and fun to
Are
close
you a
it out.
Sag? Are you a Sag?
I'm a Sag.
What day were you born, real quick?
12/12.
Really?
Which you'll La Dia de la Virgen de Guadalupe, which you'll hear right here.
Let's go.
Take it to Tijuana and a little Watson for this one. The Eyes of Guadalupe from Backroads and Borderlines. I made it out to the fighter tents out back, behind the makeshift martial arts arena, inside an old bullfighting ring, between the exotic private zoo and the octagon, between the tiger cage and the human cage in this rather insane, somewhat post-dystopian gladiator fixation fest. I knew one of the tents would be empty, as it had belonged to one of the undercard fighters who had sadly lost their bout and thus since left the premises. It had an electrical outlet inside. So I left my phone charging and, by my lonesome, no technology, walked slow, deliberate circles along the dirt paths and dusty red carpets outside the tent. It was then when I saw her, my old friend from Watsonville. She looked at me, kind and welcoming as ever. I walked over to her. And after a night full of I don't want to be here talk, here, both literal and proverbial, and lots of I'm a no-good addict who doesn't deserve kindness, love, or life messages spilling over from week-long, lifelong culminations of artistic anxiety, self-doubts, and self-hatreds. It all just poured out instantaneously, straight through my little soul and into her hands. See, this shrine was originally created for the old bullfighters way back when. And I damn sure ain't no bullfighter. And I'm an amateur boxer at best. But there I was, standing face to face with Guadalupe herself, having a little moment of honesty and vulnerability, asking for help and supervision in my life. Right then, one of the main event fighters, about 30 minutes from his fight, walked up from behind. He felt like a spirit in the shadows. I turned back and said hello. Hola. He smiled, nodded, and replied, ¿Qué pasó, hermanito? ¿Todo bien aquí? ¿Y tú? Sí, güey, todo bien. Gracias. He then reached forward and touched the shrine right in front of me. He took a deep, daring breath and began to pray. He began to pray while standing shoulder to shoulder right next to me. He wrapped it up relatively quick, couldn't have been more than 5 or 10 seconds. He dipped out into the lights of chaos as I was still staring at her in the dark. He was praying for survival in a tough, barbaric cage match. Real shit. I, on the other hand, was just asking for some sort of affirmation of sanity. And she gave us the same time. Mm-hmm. And he seemed more than happy to share that time with me. I don't quite know what to feel right now. I'm almost getting teary-eyed as I write this shit. But right on I do. It's okay. There's no one around. No one to use my emotions against me. No one to question my masculinity or call me some name and make me stab and swing. See, I'm just confused at who I am and what the fuck I'm meant to be. I'm grateful for so much and madly in love with thee still, and the sacred lady looking down at me makes me want to do right by you, by her, by all. I just need to figure out what the fuck I'm doing with my life first. What am I doing here exactly? This place cannot be it. Yet it also totally is. It really, really is. And then it isn't. Definitely isn't. And then again, it is. Tijuana is, as a whole, imperfect and fucked up and beautiful. Just like me. Yeah, perhaps that's why I'm so drawn to it. I know the lady judges me not. I know she just wants what's best. And all I can say to her is, thank you. Thank you for always hanging out somehow, some way, in the right place at the right time. It's all quite uncanny. Much like an agnostic hippie gringo sharing a birthday with one of the most spiritually significant days in the entire Catholic world, the 12th of December, El Día de la Virgen de Guadalupe. All while hailing from a small town on the central coast of California, where her iconography is forever attached to a supernatural sighting and an annual sunrise vigil on the very same lake where my single mother would meditate with a baby boy and a saint. Watsonville. Nader. Lupe. Strange. Special. And here she is again. Those eyes. Always on point.
Sick. Yo, that was tight. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, man.
That was funny. Like, I mean, at parts. Like,
No,
that
it's,
whole
and
thing.
I love, like I said, I have a dark sense of humor. I was raised by, Mexican and Irish poetry and comedy cultures. It's like, if you can't laugh at yourself, you can't add a little lightheartedness into some heavy shit. You know, that's a dark, vulnerable piece that's also got some of the funniest parts in the whole book in it. And yeah, man, I'll never, it's pretty biographical. I don't really fictionalize much in that piece. There's some things in the book that get a little hallucinatory and stretch a few things and make a little, it's like, that's a journal entry that I adapted into a poem, type of thing. And those fighters that night, man, I'll never forget that moment and kind of what it meant to me and my respect of, going all the way back to this podcast of like, he could have been an MMA fighter, could have been a boxer. It's like, just the fact, it's like, yo, you're the main event fighter going in to your thing. You're 20, 30 minutes from the opening bell. Mm-hmm. And I'm just some crazy fucking gringo poet having an early midlife crisis. And like, I'll never forget that moment of like, ¿Qué pasó, hermanito?
Yeah.
Like, and that Mexican Spanish terminology of hermanito. I mean, that's an affectionate form of the word brother. He was calling me like his little brother,
Yeah,
his
his
brother,
little brother.
his hermanito, and it's like,
It's popping.
¿Qué pasó, güey? And just like casual, as he's a devout Catholic man, like I'm an agnostic fucking hippie. I don't have like religious affiliation, but I have this special kinship to this saint, that is the Lady of Guadalupe.
Dude,
and I've always seen that
real.
kind of as my God, and my, my wisdom comes from that. And to share that, I feel like that moment, the reason why I wanted to read that is like, I could blabber on for 5 fucking hours and I couldn't better sum up those parallels that I want to continue writing between poetry and boxing, or poetry and combat, poetry and the idea of what it means to bleed onto the page and what it means to really, put yourself out there. And so with
that's
that,
the thing is like with that specific poem is about Lady
Guadalupe.
Guadalupe, yeah, sorry. The church that my grandmother went to was, fuck, I don't remember the actual name, but it was like Lady Guadalupe. Essentially, was what it was. But it's in the Bay Area. But dude, it's just part of Mexican culture. Like, you see that, and it's like, oh fuck, like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know, I get it. Like, dude, I get it fully. Like, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, bro. I fuck with that super tough. I really like that poem. That was really cool.
It means a lot, man.
Dude, that was so funny. Like, ¿Qué pasó, hermanito? Like,
And it was, and that was real,
and then, like,
dude.
todo finicky.
I was like, I was so stoned. I'm like, oh my God, the fucking main, because I knew who he was. I knew all the fighters' names. I knew their backgrounds. I knew what cities they were from. And I was like, yo, oh shit. And it was like, it was really cool because it was super dark. And anyone who knows the Plaza de Toros right there, there's a famous old shrine that, so originally the idea was where it was for, talk about courage and balls, to be a bullfighter. Go out there and like the gladiator mentality, man. And so it was like to know the history.
Well, yeah. And then like just in Mexican culture, Catholicism is like the standard. I mean, dude, my grandmother, geez, Louise, I won't say Jesus Christ, like, when it comes to actually, like, speaking about my grandmother, but I'll say it on my own. But, like, when speaking about my grandmother, like, geez, Louise, like, she had, like, a thing about the Pope in her house. I'm like, oh, Grandma, come on now, stop it. Like, and then she's like, I don't pray no more. Like, yo, I believe, like, if you want to believe in God, you've got religion, like, mad respect to all your religions, 100. For me, agnostic is probably the best way, but like I believe there's energies and like I believe there's something else. I mean, like I also have God tatted on me, so it's like whatever. Like, but when I would be with my grandma, like she's the only person I pray with. Like my grandma, like she'd be like, "Mijo, let's pray." I'd be like, "All right, grandma." Okay. Like, and I just like, yo, like that's why like I got her blasted on my neck, like 100. Like with that whole, that's why I like that poem is because when I hear that, it makes me kind of think of my grandma because like. I mean, she's the only one I would like. Dude, you can never catch me. I mean, like, well,
no, but I know.
I don't like hold hands and like bob my head, but like,
no, but for grandma,
I'll fucking do whatever. Like, yo, you want me to fucking sit here, cross my head? Like, dude, my grandma when I used to leave the house, she fucking takes like, "Mijo, come here," and she like get like little holy water and she like fucking put a little cross on my forehead, and she's like, you know, like she fucking say a little prayer for me real quick. I'm just like. Dude, like fuck yeah, you know, like so that like I fuck with that poem.
And I think that's why that moment was, you know, was so special because it tied. I mean, not to overstate things, it like tied my whole life together. Where there was a sighting, I think it was in the early '80s, but there was a sighting of the Virgin Guadalupe in a tree. We could talk for hours off the air about the questionable legitimacy perhaps of some of it, but what came of it was. Pinot Lake in Watsonville, California had from the entire time this happened in the mid 80s. And so I was born in 90 for my entire life. I mean, literally the day I was born all the way to every December 12th, there is a beautiful candlelight vigil down by this lake that is like on a spiritual level. It's done at sunrise. There's this long kind of like Santa Cruz County outskirts style, like dirt trail down to this kind of mossy, gritty lake, backside of the county park land thing. And it's this like pilgrimage, this trek that goes on. And it happened, for me, it's like it happens on my birthday. So like here I am as this little, like I said, agnostic hippie gringo boy growing up in Watson, and I'm getting to, oh, your birthday's December 12th? Like it was like the joke of, ay, pinche Lupe, and that always everyone would call me Lupe. It was like, you're Lupe. You're and like not in any sort of demeaning sense, in this total like beautiful of like, oh, you're connected to that day. And people were always so sweet for my birthday. And people were always so like really extra loving in my hometown with this day because of the day that I happened to be born, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm riding with this shit for the rest of my life. Like that's call it my guardian, call it my spirit, call it my God, call it what you will. And the fact that, within religion internationally in a Western sense, whatever sense you want to look at it in, the fact that it's this powerful female symbol was always something too, as someone who was, raised by a lot of single mother energy and a lot of tough independent female energy. I always found this
that's what's popping
fascinating connection to that. And so I feel like we've talked so much about Tijuana and tying it all the way back to Watsonville that I feel like I should close this thing out, this little poetry show with the brief, quote unquote, brief rambles in between here. We'll close it out with an homage to both places in one of the shorter pieces in the whole book of Backroads and Borderlines. This is Ramon Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte at 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
On a muggy Moose Day night.
Love this one.
That euphoric sting. When you see something in reality you've already seen in your dreams, oh, so many times. Then it passes you by and you say, oh, so that's what that was. But where the hell did it go? And from where did it come? What's the story? Whose story is yours to tell? It's yours. So tell it. Sing it. Bring everything. Be you. With nothing but a fistful of land. When death reveals its holy hand in quiet chaos of summertime bloom, your old northern home forever in tune. Whispers for Watt's own, shouts for the Ville. Desde la frontera del norte. Late night with a damn nippy chill. Whispers for Watt's own. Shouts for the motherfucking Ville. Yeah, whispers for Watt's own. Shouts for the Ville.
I love that.
That's Ramon Ayala y sus Bravos del Norte at 2 a.m. on a muggy Moose Day night.
Frontera del Norte.
And that ties it all back. That's me screaming at my younger self. That's me yelling back at Watsonville from the cantina in San Diego or Tijuana. Right there. That's tying it all together. Cano, dude, this has been so much fucking fun, man. Like any opportunities to really, and they don't come across every day, man. Like I do a lot of work with a lot of people, and this is no disrespect to anybody else out there, but to be in situations where I feel like, it's worth sharing some more vulnerable sides of myself. It's worth sharing some of the extended cuts of some of the background information about myself. We'll save Humboldt County years for part 2.
Yeah.
But just thank you for an opportunity to feel at home. You know what I mean?
Dude, we're chilling, G.
Place where you want to share your art, place where you want to share who you are. I really respect what you do. I listened back to a few episodes after you gave me the invites to kind of get a feel, and it was so cool where it's like, that's what it's about. And I love there were short episodes. Some people sat here leaving longer than I've been here. People were here for like 2.5 hours chatting it up and chopping it up.
Dude, I have had ones that have been like 4 hours.
I got mad respect for folks who can, and comes from the journalism background, the actual, especially in radio too, of interviews that really feel like they have substance, and in order for those to exist, and I hope you out there listening, please hit me up if I'm full of shit right now. If you've hated this episode, hit me up on Instagram at Nate_Abaurrea. But real talk, like the host is what creates it. The platform is what creates it. The shit's so saturated these days. I've been in this podcast hustle and radio hustle for, in my mind since I was 5 years old, and professionally since I was 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, And it's like real talk to see and to listen back to a few of those other episodes and hear a wide range of, types of people. It's like, you're doing a good thing. And you make people feel at home, and you guide people to sharing interesting stuff that needs to be heard. And I hope, I'm checking with you out there listening, I hope that I've shared some interesting shit that needed to be heard, that gave you some entertainment and some fun today as you're listening to it, wherever you may be streaming this thing on your phone, or listening in your car, or on some badass hike, or out at the boxing gym, or at the MMA gym, or wherever you may be. I hope that I've done that, because without these platforms, without people who create and cultivate spaces for creatives to, share who they are and actually express themselves, and not feel like, tying this whole conversation together, not feel like there's walls up, and for so much of my life it's media training, and there's Media Nate, and there's Sportscaster Nate, and you have to have some elements of separation. I can't just fucking spit a poem when I'm calling a game.
Hold on.
You know what I mean?
Hold on. I do have one request before we get out of here.
What's that?
I want to hear you do the fucking Xolos goal. You said, like, in the fucking Xolos thing that you sent me, you're like, what did the word? You didn't say goal. You said goal.
Golazo. Great terminology.
And then you did the goal. I want to hear the goal. If I can.
Well, here's how we're gonna have to do this. CGFC, Caffeine and Green
I'm
Football
fucking
Club.
down. Let's go.
Is playing a big match.
Let's go. We're gonna end this right when you finish the goal. So
Yeah.
just be
No,
ready.
this is-
Real quick. Okay. So real quick before we preface this.
Okay. This is
Tell people where they can find you. At your if you have a podcast, if you have at your Instagrams.
I
Whatever.
got a lot of things. I do too many things for too many different people. I do too many things for myself. But you can get a hold of me at Nate_Abaurrea on Instagram, at Nate Abaurrea on Twitter. And I do it backwards, man. With all the just corruption and gross shit with social media these days, I'm like, hit me up on social media so you can get my phone number. Hit me up on social media and so you can buy some art from me out of my trunk. You know what I mean?
go.
Like, we connect on social media and then we move back in time from there.
Okay.
So we connect in 2022 and then we meet in 2007 and you buy some poetry out of the trunk of a Honda in 2007. That's where it's at. But if you want to start the conversation at Nate_Abaurrea on IG and at Nate Abaurrea on Twitter. That's ABAURREA Abaurrea. Very good. Okay,
also
so hold
gonna
on.
film this. I'm
all
also
right,
gonna
all right.
film
We got Caffeine and Green FC.
Yes.
Who are we playing against? Let's play against. We're playing against Manchester United. I love it. All right, here
Manchester
we go.
United.
And Cano Cárdenas. Can you give me? You talked about your love for your grandmother. Can you give me your grandmother's first name?
Otilia Cardenas.
Ortilia?
Otilia.
Otilia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otilia.
Okay, Otilia Cárdenas. Here we go. Scoreless here as we hit the 93rd minute. Caffeine and Green FC pressing in attack. Manchester United playing cagey, playing defensive, trying to get this final to extra time. Oh, the Cardenas family in full effect. Otilia here kicks it to the outside to Cano Cardenas, who cuts inside on his right foot, shoots to the far post, pass to Gea and in. CGFC with the goal. It's 1-0. Golazo! Cárdenas golazo! Listen to Tijuana, listen to San Diego, listen to the cross-border community come alive. CGFC 1, Manchester United 0. Piss off United. Come on CGFC. Goal! Cárdenas. 1-0. The final whistle blows. They've won it all. Free Sikh stouts for everybody. Coffee for everybody. Doobies for everybody. I'm out. I'm Nate Abaurrea. I love you.
Peace. Yes, that was by far the best way that Caffeine and Green has ever ended. No cap. That's big facts. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. And Nate, thank you so much for your time, brother. That was so fucking cool. I loved it. Thank you again. And guys, thank you, everybody around the world. Shout out to Australia. Shout out to Poland, Brazil, Argentina. I see all you guys. Thank you so much. Germany, you guys listen so much. And just everybody in North America for sure. Canada, Mexico, mad love for everybody supporting Caffeine and Green. Guys, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I'm just so excited for the remainder of the month and the December. We have so many good guests coming. So, stay tuned. Appreciate y'all. Peace.